So those are kind of the three components you have to think of when you think of RPO. Brand, the people to the brand, and then the technology that you're going to bring in.
So your most valuable assets in our RPO model, I'd say, of course, technology is given.
Yeah.
But the recruiters are the key in that. The best of the recruiters are your gold mine.
Is your recruiters are acting on behalf of that company. From the candidate's perspective, they have no idea that they're interacting with a third party.
If you're the recruiter, if you're the leader, do I trust this AI to make decisions that are equal or better than my intelligence?
There's only so many times a human's going to go to a bot, talk to the agentic AI, go back to the bot, and when they can't get the answer, they do want the human.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Humans of Staffing. My name is Sammy Singh, along with my co-host, TJ Sammy from WorkNow. Today, it's a pleasure to have Chloe Ryan. She's the Vice President of Talent Solutions at WSI, where she leads the Talent Sync. It's a new division that they've created for RPO. Chloe, welcome to the show.
Awesome. It's nice to be here. Welcome. I'm excited to join you and TJ today, and thank you for having me on.
No, welcome.
Yes.
Welcome. Excited.
Welcome. And it's always good to be straightforward on these. We just met, kind of went over what you've done, and this will be probably our first episode that's going to concentrate on RPO. And Chloe, that's really an alien word to a lot of people because it means many different things to many of us. Even the ones I've been at it for 30 years. TJ has been at it nearly the same time in staffing and technology, and yet we get sidelined a lot of times not knowing about a lot of this. So, firstly, Chloe, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then let's talk about your role at what you play today.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I think your kind of thought process on you don't really know what it is. I think that's a lot of people. So I'm excited to be here today. So, introduction of myself. Again, I'm Chloe Ryan. Vice President here at WSI, overseeing our new RPO division, Talent Sync. Just a little background on myself. I've been about 13 years in the industry. I say I've always been on the agency side, right? So started out in a true temp staffing model in light industrial staffing. Did that for about 3 to 4 years in my local community. And then had the great opportunity to go over to a company to help them stand up their RPO practice. And I did that for 10 years. So built that RPO practice really from the ground up. They'd actually sold their first client before they hired me, and they didn't have any clue what they were doing. So I came on, built the tech stack, built the team. During peak there, it was myself and over 50 recruiters. So really scaled that RPO practice. And then most recently have started at WSI. I was brought in to build their RPO practice. And I've been with WSI for about 6 months. So starting over again from the ground up. But it's super exciting. I really getting to take my 10 years of experience, knowing what the customer and what the market really wants, and being able to be really creative in my solutions, which I think is something so unique about RPO, is you can really get creative solutions, solution architecture, bringing the tech stack. So really excited to be here from that front.
On our side, Chloe, we are always, of course, we being in technology, we are a staffing platform, right? At the end of the day, we're a platform that does end-to-end, including VMS and the whole 9 yards mainly for light industrial and gray collar space.
Yeah.
So what tech stack typically would an RPO? Does an RPO, is this, so let's break it down one at a time, right? Give us the step one of an RPO. What does that mean to you and to our audience? Because a lot of staffing agencies today want to expand their business. So either they get into MSP space or they're being forced down, a lot of job orders from the VMS systems. Yeah. How does RPO work? So kind of give us the kindergarten level, basic 101, and then let's kind of build upon that.
Yeah. So I think it's great because I actually was doing a presentation today to a mastermind group of staffing companies. And I did exactly this, broke it down from the bottom up. One, what does it mean? And kind of what are the 6 key functional areas that you have to have in order to be an RPO, right? So again, RPO, back to its basic level, recruitment process outsourcing. I always tell people I absolutely hate whoever named it. I think it's horrible that it's an acronym because anytime someone asks me, oh, RPO, then you have to literally explain recruitment process outsourcing. And the second you say outsourcing, people go, oh my gosh, red flag, right? So I personally hate the naming convention, but I was saying to you and TJ earlier, it's really new, right? It came up in the late 1990s, 2000s. The name actually wasn't coined until 2005. So just going on its 20th anniversary of really being something out in the market. But going back to your question of what does it really mean to be RPO, there's kind of some key functionality. The biggest thing is the biggest difference which people struggle with is it's really about your brand and about the tech stack. So the biggest difference is you are going to market as that customer. You're using their brand. So from a pure staffing agency perspective, that's unique and different, right? So you're going to market as the company. The second component of that is your recruiters are acting on behalf of that company. So they are using that company's, if they have one, applicant tracking system, emails. The recruiter or the candidate experience is seamless. They have no idea, from the candidate's perspective, they have no idea that they're interacting with a third party. So those are kind of the two biggest differences. And then you layer the tech stack component onto that. So as I'd mentioned, in most cases, companies have their own applicant tracking system, which means you're going to integrate. But typically those applicant tracking systems, as you guys know, are outdated and antiquated. And there's a reason why they're needing help and support. So in most situations, mostly, you're going to layer what I call a CRM on top of that applicant tracking system. And that CRM is going to be an RPO built system that can layer onto applicant tracking systems to help drive top of funnel, to help drive analytics, and to bring a full recruitment solution to the company. So those are kind of the three components you have to think of when you think of RPO, right? The brand, the people to the brand, and then the technology that you're going to bring in to really drive efficiencies and analytics for the company.
So in terms of the RPO, what is the ideal criteria that a company should consider before you make a decision that you want to go that route or not?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question. I think for most companies, why they would choose an RPO is for the what I call large enterprise companies like the Deltas of the world, the Coca-Colas of the world. It's simply because there's so much volume. From a pure financial perspective, it makes more sense instead of bringing all those resources in internally to do it, to outsource that. Where I mostly focus, TJ, is in what I call mid-market. So these are smaller companies. And in most cases, the reason why they would want to bring on an RPO is because they have no internal expertise in talent acquisition. They have maybe an HR manager, but they have no one in talent, right? So in most cases, that means they're using 5, 10, 15 temp staffing companies to try to fill their roles. And it's a lot to manage. So instead, they're going to bring someone in that can build that infrastructure for them, bring them technology, because they probably in most cases don't have any. Sometimes they don't have an applicant tracking system at all. So it's really bringing the expertise, bringing the technology, and then bringing the scalable resources so that they don't have to ebb and flow with recruiters as peaks and valleys happen within their business.
Got it. And that would be different from me being the employer and using a traditional staffing agency, right? Because you said the key difference being it's essentially your brand that's been extended.
Correct.
It's the key, right? Versus traditional staffing, someone's going to say, hey, it's Apple One or Adecco, whatever the case might be.
Yep.
Here, the difference is it's my brand's extension, and I have control over how that quality control, so to speak, is, and that candidate experience is. And if I'm using an internal stack that's seamlessly integrated with my internal systems, even there's a smooth transition from sourcing all the way down to my job orders. I mean, that's well, and cost-wise, what's kind of the structure one versus the other?
Yeah. So I think you're bringing up a great point, TJ, and you said it perfectly, right? Which is they're really getting the opportunity to leverage their brand. And in most cases, RPOs also have expertise in employer branding. So they can help companies say, okay, I've worked with a lot of very large customers. I would name a few and you would know who they are, right? But even them, they don't have a good understanding. They know what their consumer brand is, but they don't necessarily have a good idea of what their employer brand is, right? So they may be going to market in the wrong way, thinking, oh, my logo is just going to attract talent. And that may not be the case anymore. So the brand piece is really important. But to go back to your question on the pricing model, they're very, very different, right? So in a true staffing, it's typically a markup or a bill rate that's occurring. In an RPO model, there's a couple of different ways that things are priced, but just to kind of give you the top layer, most is in what we call a cost per hire model. So it's a flat fee, and it's typically charged once the candidate starts. So the nice thing about that for the company is all the upfront work is done with no dollars going out. And then once the actual hire happens, then a fee is charged. And it's RPO, the thing that I didn't mention in the forefront, it is a volume play in most situations. So it's companies that have volume in repeatable roles. And so for them, we can take advantage of the economies of scale, and that cost per hire is extremely low. And when you're thinking, you're like, oh, if you're thinking direct hire, most people are thinking, 25% of salary, right? Nowhere near close. You're typically 3 to 5% of salary because, again, there's volume involved and there's economies of scale. So for the company, they get to take advantage of that piece of it from a price structure.
Got it. In this case, the employer record is still the employer, right? Not the RPO.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Right. So that's the other big difference is when that hire occurs, the customer is the employer of record. So it is not a kind of temporary or attempt to hire situation where they would be on the, on the recruitment firm's payroll. So that's also very, very different too.
Where are the challenges? I've only had experience with one RPO so far in a career. The challenges existed. Number one was because you had outside RPO doing all the legwork, the supervisors at each of the plants did not respect the amount of work that went into the equation because the accounts were written in where, hey, we can try the person for 10 days. If they don't work out, you're going to have to refund us the money, right? Mm-hmm. So it was so much work for the recruiters that there was never an alignment between the company's HR and recruitment and the recruiters because they're like, oh, we don't care. Keep throwing as much talent at it. And in case they don't work out in 10 days, and supervisors had a habit of saying, oh, it's 9 days. Let me just get rid of this guy because it didn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
So where would you advise on the recruitment and that contract side to listeners that, hey, be careful about this concept because I did see that happen. And eventually that company left that RPO solely because they were burnt out.
Yeah. So Sammy, you literally just hit the nail on the head of what every RPO company experiences, right? And it was actually also in my presentation, I did a whole slide on risk and how do you mitigate that risk going into being an RPO. And the biggest thing is exactly what you said. Every time I sit down with a new prospect or a solution for a new customer, 9 times out of 10, I will have the decision maker or the economic buyer look at me and say, gosh, you're selling me a deal of goods here. What's going to make this not work? Why has this not worked in the past? And my answer is exactly what you just said, Sammy, which is there is no change management. 9 times out of 10, the client is not prepared to actually have an RPO because an RPO is going to bring in recruiting methodology, is going to bring in process, is going to bring in, typically our number one KPI is to drive down your time to fill. So we are going to be bringing in a process that is going to be way outside of the comfort zone of most of the hiring managers. So that is where the rub comes right away. If they're not really prepared to make changes and create efficiency, or they don't have a change agent or a champion that's going to help their people through that process, it will not work. And your example, I've had that happen directly, right? The hiring manager's like, they're not bought in. There's a lot going on. They understand what the retention guarantee is. So they're like, I'm just going to try and, I'm going to try and dump here. And that's not the point of an RPO, right? So I think how you mitigate that is through the selling process and through the prospecting process and making sure that, these deals are lining up and everyone, that company is really on board for change management. That's why the RPO sales cycle, Sammy and TJ, can be upwards of 18 months. I mean, it is not a transactional, hey, I need 10 temps. We're going to sign a contract tomorrow, right? These are long-term. These are typically very solution deals, and there's got to be buy-in all the way from the top down.
And it is lucrative to some extent and not lucrative if not done right?
Correct.
In that situation, we really control that. I'd say that we control the situation by using WorkNow's VMS and our timekeeping to get control over everything and start watching the data in order to say, and that's how we controlled it, because the RPO was literally drowning with this client, right? So that's when I realized that, oh my God, they should have been, whoever put the contract together, these are the drawbacks, but yet it was lucrative enough for them to continue. Yeah. Right? It was it's kind of like the MSP model, right? MSP can be great, but most MSPs don't want to be in MSPs.
Exactly.
Because they have to be the front, they have to manage the staffing. The beauty of RPO is for the agency or you as a company, will it always, let's also be clear, will it always be a staffing agency that becomes an RPO? Can there be an independent RPO company by itself?
There can be an independent RPO company by itself. I'd say there's very few out there, like the Cielo of the world, right? I'm sure everyone's probably heard that name. They were founded on RPO and built an RPO. I'd say in most cases, it is a staffing company that decides to add on an RPO practice, right? Like Manpower has an RPO practice. Kelly has an RPO practice. In both these situations, Sammy and TJ, where I just worked, it was a staffing company and they added on an RPO practice. So it's not unheard of, but I would say in most cases, it is a staffing company that's adding on this practice because they see the value in it for their customer base and the margins in it as well, because the margins are significantly higher than what you have in a traditional temp staffing model.
On that case, I think it's also a big advantage for the staffing agency, because if I go recruit a staffing agency ABC, I'm going to get only an X amount of people that want something very temporary. And anybody who was looking for full-time, long-term is going to say, sorry, I'm not applying. But if I go as Coca-Cola or Pepsi or someone else, the chance of someone applying is 10x better. And that's where the RPO brings that practice, saying, listen, here's how you need to brand yourself. Let me recruit you, take you through some processes, and then really help them. So you could have a combo of RPO, partly an MSP, and also a VMS all running at the same time.
You could. And there is a lot of situations where that does happen. I had multiple customers at my previous role where either it was a staffing customer first, and then we sold in RPO, or it could have happened vice versa, where we landed it as an RPO deal, but there was some seasonality peaks where it made sense for them to have a staffing model. And so that when we would bring in our staffing model to augment that. So you can have it working in a symbiotic relationship. The biggest thing about that is, from a delivery standpoint, both of your models got to be delivering, right? So if your staffing model isn't delivering, or if your RPO model isn't delivering, you're going to jeopardize one or the other model if you're in singularly with a company. So I do preface that with, you got to make sure you're ready to deliver on both fronts, because you don't want to jeopardize the other side of the business.
So your most valuable assets in our RPO model, I'd say, of course, technology is given.
Yeah.
But the recruiters are the key in that. The best of the recruiters are your gold mine is your recruiters.
Recruiters, yes, absolutely. And building those recruiters from the ground up. And I think kind of switching over to TJ, kind of what we had talked about with tech stack and where AI is going, that is a huge piece of it too, because I'm now in the gist of, okay, the human element is still so important, but those recruiters are going to be even more valuable as AI comes on, because they're going to have to work within those AI pieces, machine and human together, moving processes forward. So It is 100% about the technology. It's about the recruiters. And it's about really when companies bring in RPOs, they're wanting to be on the forefront of talent acquisition and they're wanting their RPO to be that, right? So always being at the forefront, knowing what's coming with AI, being in compliance, all of those things. They're doing all of those things. And so that company doesn't have to spend the time to kind of be a subject matter expert in that space.
Now, Chloe, you have been doing this for a while now, right? And so, in your experience, how has the industry, specifically for RPO, evolved over the last decade or so? I mean, one is just the economic environment, political environment, and then you add the tech stack to it. How has it evolved? And I'm curious to.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's a great question, TJ, because I think again, with it being so new, really its founding being in 2005. So we're celebrating 20 years. And I was literally at the RPO conference on Monday and we had cupcakes and balloons. Like we're literally at the 20th year mark here. At the beginning, RPO really took off because it was super new. And that type of RPO, when I go back to the different models of RPO, what really took off was what we call end-to-end or full cycle or enterprise RPO. And that's where RPO companies were coming in. They were completely outsourcing their entire talent acquisition departments. Like these were the Deltas of the world and the Cokes of the world that were saying, we're not having talent acquisition departments anymore. We're going full RPO. That was really the breadth and depth of where it started. And then it kind of grew. And then obviously you had the 2008, 2009, we kind of all fell off there during that economic crisis. And then I'd say it kind of caught its ground a little bit more, but it blew up in 2020. I mean, that's where I will never forget, the shutdown happens. I lay off all of my staff because no one knew what was happening. And within 6 weeks to 8 weeks, when everyone tried to call their people back, and no one came back, RPO just skyrocketed because temp agencies couldn't get people to go back and be a temp. It wasn't worth it to be a temp, right? But there was a better chance to get people to come back if they were going to be a direct employee. So that's why 2000, 2001, or 2021, 2022, massive growth. I mean, to the point of triple, quadruple EBITDAs. I mean, including myself, it was just massive. And then what I call the COVID hangover happens. End of 22, beginning of 23, and it almost happened overnight. It went like this, boom, because everything started changing and companies were like, we don't need the hires. We overhired. They were laying off the staff. And now we see in 23 to 24 and even into 25, companies are tending to go back to staffing because they're not ready to commit, right? They still want that flexible work model. They're not sure exactly how many people they need, when it's going to increase. So it dipped hugely in 23. It leveled out in 24. It's what the numbers show coming from Everest Group. We're level in 25. They are predicting to 26 to 28 an 8 to 11% increase back up for RPO. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. I was told in 24 that 25 was going to be a growth year and it's not. So I think, again, you can only trust the economists so far, right, of what they know. But I'm hopeful for that increase over the next couple of years.
And I think even the size of the customer has changed, right? I mean, you mentioned
massive.
The Deltas of the world. Now it's more mid-market type of employer that even is looking at this option, right? Maybe 10 years ago, that was not cost effective for someone to do it. Today, with the tech stack coming in and more maturity in the model and all these contracts, and frankly, you've learned over the last 10, 15 years what works, what doesn't work.
Exactly. And I will say to that, it was funny, I was speaking to someone in the industry, and you're exactly right. An RPO deal back in 2018 to 2019, you would want a minimum of 1,500 hires a year. That would be a small RPO deal. The big guys, they're shooting for 10 to 20,000 hires a year, right? We're now in 2025 and people are happy if you can get 250 in a deal. That is the difference, right? And so the RPOs that have adjusted to that will survive. They're figuring out how to be more relevant to those smaller customers and knowing that they're going to have a lot more of them to make up the revenue that they would have on a 10,000 hire a year account, right? So it has drastically changed since I even entered the industry 10 years ago.
It has, and I think medical was one of them that really jumped up, right? Medical, you saw stuff pop up and go crazy, and then it just went down. And right now, your focus has been on light industrial mainly?
Yeah. So,
right?
So kind of the three verticals that I have focused on in my career is light industrial manufacturing, particularly food manufacturing, because it's very recession proof. And then I also focus in retail and then warehouse and distribution. So all entry level, high volume roles is the industries. But Sammy, your point on healthcare, I'll never forget at my previous company, my CEO during the crazy COVID time came to me and said, I think we need to do healthcare because like everyone was like on that trend. And I was like, I had something in my gut, like we're not going to hop on the trend because I think it's going to go. And sure enough, I mean, there was so many healthcare RPOs that popped up and I can't even tell you the stat on how many have gone under in a short, I mean, that's how quick it went, right? So back to your question, those are my focus areas, high volume hourly hiring. But yeah, healthcare was an interesting one and how it ramped up and ramped down so quickly.
So on the AI side, for example, we have AI recruiter, right? Something that is Luna. Her job is as soon as somebody applies, she texts them and says, "Hey, listen, would you want to have a verbal interview?" She goes through it, asks the specific questions that you've done, then says, "Okay, this is good to go. You've answered all the questions, yeses and nos, records everything, puts everything." So the recruiter at the end of the day only sees usually 30%, we've seen 30 to 35% come through as final candidates, and they can work on them. The biggest fear that continues to plague the entire industry is that you don't let AI make any hiring decisions, right? Where does the liability sit on the RPO side? Because you're the ones, your 5 recruiters, 10 recruiters are doing all the hiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then some employee at some point in time is going to wake up and go, although it's the client's supervisor might have said no, it's your recruiter that has to deliver the bad news now.
Yeah.
And how does that work? Because that's a quagmire in its own way.
Well, if you want to know what's keeping me up at night, you just hit the nail on the head. So literally, I'm trying to take this in as fast as I possibly can, because as you both know, it's moving so quickly. So back to, you use something called Luna. Exact same thing. I'm using that exact same concept. We have a agentic AI making the phone calls, doing the whole thing. I will tell you that the industry is probably split 50-50. And the reason why I can say that is the conferences I've been at where, again, on Monday, I had someone from, it was Scotty AI. They get up on the stage and they literally say, we're 6 months out from TA being fully AI. I mean, they truly believe that. They believe that we're 6 months out from literally the hiring manager pushing a button saying, I want X, and AI is going to do the whole thing. And they believe that that's going to happen. You've got the other 50% saying more in your court of like the hiring decision will always remain with the human, right? That AI is only going to go to this part of it, and then the human will continue to make the hiring decision. I think the answer is we don't know. And I think that because there's so much in the industry, especially right now with the workday situation, the legal situations that are going on, I think people are just probably holding a little bit until they can. So to answer your question, I'm probably aligned to where you guys are at. I believe that the human and the machine will work together. I believe that AI is going to be ingrained, but I think that there's always going to be the human that's going to be feeding it, training it, prompting it. And do I think it can make the hiring decision? I do think there's a world, as long as it's trained, where that could happen. I don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but I I do think that will eventually happen, but I do think the human will always be there. That's my take on it.
And I agree. I think the biggest challenge we see on the AI front is a question of trust.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the recruiter, if you're the leader, do I trust this AI to make decisions that are equal or better than my intelligence? Yes, AI can do it at volume. Yes, AI can deduce trends that I as a human can't. But do I really trust? I think that's one. My rule of thumb always is if I can take a process and I can use AI/automation and automate at least 70% of the process, it's success, because the other 30%, a human being comes in and says, well, I think this is good, this is not, or make those decisions accordingly. The other part that's very complex with this AI is each state now has its own different set of rules and regulations. And the way we've always designed the product is, like you'd mentioned, 50% yes, 50% no. And there's probably, I personally divide the market up into three different categories, three different percentages. I think the first 30% are the gung-ho, let's go try this out, let's see, we're going to make this happen. Yep. And you've always got the bottom 20% who'll never move. And those are the 20% of the market that won't be in business in 3 to 5 years. Yep. And then you've got everybody else in the middle. Some are forward-looking, some are not. Someone will wait till somebody tries it out before I try it out, and so forth. But if you add the legal complexity, the operational complexity as well, because now you're walking to a recruiter and saying, you know what, remember the 10 things I trained you about? 6 of them AI is going to perform. And so now there was, okay, but now what do I do? So there's a training aspect involved in it as well. So it's not as simple as it seems. There's always a push. Being a techie myself, I've seen Silicon Valley make this push. Every 7 to 10 years, there's a new trend in tech. The cloud, it was all, what was it, mobile apps 2007, 2000, it was the web. So billions and billions of dollars go into this R&D. And yes, some meaningful part does come out of it. But then on the flip side, we do hear, if it's not thought through properly with the governance and the risk factors, the trust factor, and frankly, also the costs rack up for AI as no tomorrow if you don't manage all of these aspects. So my rule of thumb typically is you go in, you see what is your culture as an organization? How forward-looking are you? Are you not? What's your risk appetite? Are you willing to change the operations? Yes, if you check those boxes, let's go implement it. Let's make it happen. So that's just my take on this part.
Also, I think it also depends on the kind of talent you're acquiring, right? If you're acquiring developers, they're going to love what you do.
Oh, yeah.
While you're going to call a plumber, he's going to say, what the heck, man? Why ain't you? I'm still old school in that sense. What this whole online stuff has done, especially after COVID, is it's taken that human, like me being in sales. I love going into someone's office. Mm-hmm. I love looking at their facility, taking the time to understand, right? Even if it's staffing, go into their facility. It doesn't exist. We were just talking about a client, some clients we're implementing. Some of them we wish we were physically there. We do show up, but we can't show up on a daily, like old school, right? We used to go there, you take 10 days, get them implemented, you figure out all the questions, you know them. There's a level of trust. But the funny thing that's going to happen is our kids don't even search on straight Google, right? It's all AI.
Yeah.
So your applicants are going to be your kids' bots that are applying, and the one taking it is a bot. They both are going to figure it out, and no one's really going to know who the heck gave the interview.
Oh.
So it's going to be but I think it's overhyped to begin with because too much money is involved. That's one. So what you said, Chloe, and same thing what TJ is saying is put the human in the middle, still go step at a time, but start inserting it today. Because we decided as a company last year to be an AI first company. What that simply meant was let's use AI to, let's say, like I don't have to do presentations. my emails otherwise would suck because I would write all over my thought process was everywhere. And guys like me then could just say, polish it. And it's a beautiful, nice little email.
Yep.
Going, that's the one you got. So the key is
Yeah.
that it made all of us better at doing whatever we are doing and maybe more. But in your side, going back to RPO, I know the liability can be thrown on you. Are you seeing now, because of the pressure on cost, no one's investing, just everything's like this weird stagflation is going on?
Oh, it's literally every day. Yep.
Yeah, it's neither moving forward, neither is it going back. You're like, okay, what happens tomorrow morning? You don't know, right?
Exactly.
And then you look at the stock market and you go, why in the world is this going up? So,
it's the most, I literally, people are like, you are in recruitment sales. And I'm like, yes. And it is, I just, it's the roller coaster, right? You are exactly right. Like it is this stag. And I never so much in my life, you guys, than I have in the last quarter, where I've had what I call the best of window shopping, right? I've gotten so many prospects all the way down, right? And I mean, my stat used to be that if I got you to a solution, it was 100% close rate. Meaning if I got to a point where we were solutioning and money was on the table and we were 100%. I'm telling you, in the last 2 weeks, 3 major deals on the table, and I only won one of them. That is not my norm. So again, it's just this. Now, what I'm trying to take as the positive, Sammy and TJ, is that they're at least window shopping. In Q1 and Q2, to get a meeting was just painful, right? So I think that's starting to show that maybe we're going to get there in 26. But it is unlike anything I've been a part of.
Yeah, because you don't know which boomerang is going to be, circling economy-wise, whether the jobs go up, do they go down? All of this is contingent, and it will change because one thing we've noticed in 30 years is staffing knows how to reinvent itself.
Yes.
Because we are in the staffing industry, used to 2 masters. You've got the client, and then you've got your temps, right? Mm-hmm. 2 masters at all times. But with RPO, oh my God, you have it. Like I said, it better be lucrative because then you get guys like, I'm just call them out, Hudson, right? Yeah. You jump in, literally for nothing, give it away. And then in public, when they publish their P&L, and you're like, why in the world are you in business for?
I know, exactly.
Like, you're doing a few $100 million and you barely made any money. You just ruined the entire industry, and then they have to go out and do a merger.
Yeah. And that's the story, right? Like, there's definitely, it's like you're in it, you've commoditized it, you've done all these things, and you're hurting the ones out here that really want to do it right and be a value add and truly provide ROI to customers. I mean, at the end of the day, that is what I want. Obviously, I'm in the business to make money. We all have got to make money.
Yes.
But if I'm not providing my customer a true ROI that I can actually quantifiably show you, then I'm not the right partner for you, right? And I've had that realization many times in my career. And sometimes it's not for lack of us. It's back to your point, Sammy, that they weren't ready for us. And I didn't suss that out smartly enough. And it didn't matter how much spaghetti I threw at the wall. They weren't going to get on board with what really needed to happen.
And Chloe, I'm glad you're doing that exercise. That only comes through experience, because for me, even though having one experience, I mean, literally some of the recruiters needed mental break every 2 weeks because they would break down by Friday. By the sheer demand and the abuse they would face all week. Yeah. From HR didn't really care. They called themselves HR, but they didn't care because they're like, oh, we're paying you money.
Yep.
Let it happen. This supervisor doesn't know how to talk to these recruiters. They would never do that to their own staff because their own staff will sue them.
Correct.
Right? Correct. So the fact is, for you, your biggest assets as an RPO are the best recruiters on earth that you can find. Right? To me, that would be my best asset. And I'm going to have 20 of them. I'm going to deploy 5 of them for you. You can flex up, flex down, but I'm giving you people who know your business better than you do.
Yeah. And I will speak, I think it speaks in true pride there, Sammy, that all of the longstanding RPO engagements that I had, the reason why we kept them is because we had strong recruiters and account managers. And essentially at the end of the day, the companies were staying involved with us because they wanted to keep that staff, right?
Yes.
I mean, that ultimately at the end of the day, that was what they were really, it was because, Amy is an amazing recruiter and understands our business better than we do. And now has been doing this for us for 10 years. That's actually a real example. Like they're bought into that piece. They're bought into that. And then they're also bought into the technology and knowing that we can do it faster, more efficient, more creatively, and stay on the forward end of technology where they just don't want to play in that space.
The key in all of this is, so Chloe, which side do you see the growth? Is it still RPO is going to have growth sides even in light industrial, do you feel? Or do you think it's going to shift in some? I mean, it's always been there in the SOW type of market where it's much more sophisticated, but light industrial is a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
We know that beast because that's all we've ever done. Do you feel that's where the growth still will continue, or do you feel there's another arena coming up?
So if you look at the numbers, it would scare you away because the light industrial and the retail and the warehousing, so the three verticals that I am in have shrunk. And so that's a real statistic. And so I think you would have a lot of people say, because they feel like those roles, Sammy and TJ, those frontline roles, they're feeling like those roles are going to get taken over by AI. That eventually you are going to walk, let's just use the retail example, hiring entry-level cashiers. That's roles that I would be hiring for. You're going to eventually walk into a retail store and there may not be an actual human in the store. So I think that's where people's heads are at of like that will happen, that reality. So there will be less need for frontline workers. I struggle with that. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't have a crystal ball to say that won't happen, but I do think, yes, that workforce is going to reduce. But I think where RPOs can be successful is you're still going to have humans somewhere in the process. So there's still going to have to be recruiting that occurs. It's how are you going to find those humans that you can upskill? Talk about skills and skill sets. And because now those humans are going to have to interact with AI. So I think to be on the forefront of that as an RPO, you have to be thinking futuristic of how can I build workforces and skill sets of people that are going to be upskilled that can, instead of being the cashier checking you out, right, can be the person that's overseeing the AI that's doing that, right? So it's going to change. I don't have the crystal ball, but I think there are some people that think that will go away because they do truly believe that AI will take over all the entry-level roles.
Maybe there'll be a role for a premium role. For example, hey, I want to talk to someone, right? I just believe that now the premium product is going to be when I pick up the phone and I call, someone's actually going to, I mean, half the time I wish 90% of my problems will be gone if I've called you and I can just explain it to someone because it's something a little, it's odd. Yeah. And it's not ordinary, and AI is having a tough time figuring it out.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, there's been this whole there's some statistics shown, I think it was maybe Salesforce or Verizon, one of the two, they laid off 1,000 customer service reps because they said AI can take over all of the customer service. Well, they're backing out of that because to your point, there's only so many times a human's going to go to a bot, talk to the agentic AI, go back to the bot. And when they can't get the answer, they do want the human. So again, I think there's going to be something there where you're still going to have the human. Now, maybe not at the size of workforce that you had before, but I still think there's going to be a workforce there.
And it gets very complex because each industry has its own little caveat to it, right? Like finance and like fraud detection tools, they're perfect for AI. They penetrate pretty fast. But then if you go to healthcare, where maybe there's more sensitivity of data, confidentiality of data, things like that change. So that's where the complexity comes in because it's very different for every vertical. Then within that vertical, every department, within that department, every position, and what role you play, it just gets, but it's coming. It's just that I think
Yeah.
the iterations will take years and years. Some industries will get penetrated very rapidly, and make that trend moving forward. And some of them, like you mentioned, you'll hit a brick wall, you'll fall back. But with billions of dollars of research and investment in innovation and AI engineering coming in, they'll fall, they'll kind of reinvent, go back again, fall again. But in 5 to 7, 10 years, I think it's going to be a huge difference. But from now till then, or whatever that time frame is, who knows? 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, we'll see where things go. But that keeps our life interesting. Sometimes I wish I was a doctor, so I just learned the human body once, and the body never thinks.
Yeah.
Being it AI, it's like every day it's something new, right? You're learning something new every day, and then you can't keep up. It's so difficult to keep up.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing and it's a curse at the same time. I mean, I love to learn new things, so I love that my day is never the same. But then it's the curse of every day I'm feeling like, okay, I'm missing something. Like this company over here is doing this, right? And am I not on the forefront of that, right? So it's definitely a complex world that we live in, for sure.
It's the FOMO effect right there. So
that's so true. So definitely the FOMO, where I'm like, I'm missing out on something. I'm missing out on something. One of these guys doing one of these,
and you realize it's a fancy marketing material.
And
when the rubber meets the road, it's a whole different ballgame. So.
And, I see it like the way I'm at that stage. I don't know, between the two of you, you might be in a completely different zone. I got, of course, remember when you used to get the first iPhone? It was so cool because it was FOMO. I'm like, yeah, dude, check this out, right? Then you were pretty quick about getting the second one sooner than later. You found an excuse. Then by the third, now on my third or fourth, I have zero.
No.
I don't give a scrap what your phone's doing. I will not let it go till either the screen's broken, and of course Apple, we know it slows the whole darn thing down to force you to get one.
Correct.
So what I'm saying is, look at that FOMO effect is now someone's going to come in now, come up with something of communication that is going to be so different than the iPhone. That's the only time all of us will hop onto that wagon.
Yeah.
Because this party's over. There's only so much you can do with a phone by now, right? How much of a better camera? How much of a better?
It always amazes me. My friends are like, as soon as the next version comes out, like they're on the pre-order of getting the next version. And I'm like, what? Like, to your point, my last one I had for 7 years. And the only reason why I got a new one is because my microphone was completely out and I couldn't take a phone call except for if I was on speakerphone. And my husband was like, Chloe, you need a new phone. Like, this is ridiculous. But I'm like, I get it. I don't, because all the features, pretty much at some point, to your point, the camera is as good as it's going to get. Like, it's dying. So to your point, until something really crazy, which I think they're trying to get it where like you wear the glasses now and like your phone will be in the glasses. I'm sure that's the next step. So
have you ever watched Black Mirror?
No.
Oh my God, Chloe, you got to go watch that. That's a Netflix series. It'll blow your mind. And each one talks about technology, how it changes. Like, it shows what happens in a world where everybody's recording everything, happens in a world where everybody rates everyone, right? And I do partly believe that there will be only two groups left in 20 years from now. One guy who's just going to start his 1985 F-150. He's just chill. And the only communication he wants to do is he wants to keep a single phone that he opens up and only calls when he needs to, or has a satellite phone. And that's the only tech he's ever going to have. Right? So I think it's going to go two very different routes, but 90% of us will fall into the line of AI in some shape or form in our lives. Okay. And RPO is going to get affected. And, you're at the forefront, you're trying. And how do we find you, Chloe? We might as well get a plug-in.
Yeah, I love a good plug-in. Well, of course, I'm on LinkedIn. So if you just type in my name, I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I try to put out a ton of content, so it's worth the connection. And then also just my website is wsitalentSync.com. You can go see my services and everything that I've done in the space. So yeah, check me out. Again, I'd love to be connected on LinkedIn and be a resource for anyone.
And again, Chloe, we are here as a resource. We do everything end to end. Think of us as anything that's a zinger that comes your way.
I love that.
This is all we do. This is the only industry we know. I was talking to someone who's been in the industry a long time, and I forget, was it Al Pacino? Whatever movie it was, he said, every time I try to leave, they pull me right back in.
Right.
This is the reality of us. And will you be at Staffing World next week?
I will not. That is one I will not be at, but I've been to it before. So
got it. It's for us. It's all of us who've been meeting each other for the last 25, 30 years. And you go in and you go, you're still here, and they were cursing the whole industry out 2 years ago. And they're saying, dude, I just joined someone. I don't know anything else to do. So all of us, we will all nerd out on this night and day. And there's so much still to learn. Yeah. Technology is changing it. People's attitudes are changing. Sometimes there's more people who want work, and then the companies will suddenly change it's so interesting, and we can only wish you the best.
I appreciate that.
Win it, thrive it, and hopefully you get 100% success rate as you kind of keep going through this.
I love it. Well, I appreciate both of you. It was a great conversation, and I think people will have some good takeaways from it. So thank you for having me on.
No, thank you.
So think about it, Chloe. We thought 25 minutes and we're sitting at 50 minutes. So
I know. I was like, I looked up at the timer about 10 minutes ago and I was like, oh, wow. Okay, we're really. And that's just how it happens.
A good conversation and good people to be able to sit down and talk about things that to us it is everybody, every agency should survive. They provide great employment to great recruiters. They can plug in AI, but we want the whole industry to thrive together, because if our clients win, we win, you win, everybody wins together.
Exactly. I could not agree with you more. And when you were saying about the people that are just getting sucked back in, I always tell people, it's the 2 and out industry, right? 90% come in, they do it for 2 years. It's so hard to get out. Anyone that makes it past those 2 years, I tell you, they're lifers. And they never go and do anything else. Like my whole executive team, it's the same thing. You made it past the 2 years, and then you get sucked in, and I just say you get sucked into the chaos. So it's fun.
And we thrive in it. So
yeah, I love it. Awesome.
Again, Chloe, thanks a lot.
Yes,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, have a good one.